Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today's Sunday, September 16th, 2018. Hope everyone's had a great weekend. Tonight, we're going to do something just a little bit different. Not only are we bringing on Henrik, but also, Henrik, how you doing? First off.
I'm doing very, very good today. Thank you.
Yes. Henrik and I were, we were on a mission and we had to hitchhike from, was it Sweden?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I don't remember much. Whatever it was that you had in your garden, you fed me. Most of the night was a blur, so I'm just glad we made it back safe. But anyway, I'd like to welcome in Mari tonight, as we're going to have her in as well to kind of be that third person in the room. Mari, say hello to everybody.
Hello to everybody.
Oh, boy.
Okay. I'm going to mute myself now.
You're fine. She's coming off as echoey. That's because she is echoey.
Oh, okay. I was afraid you was feeding her with a helium.
Well, remember, she was kidnapped by aliens, so she is actually doing the show tonight from the moon base at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. So
it has no atmosphere.
And we will get into that here soon. But first, let's go ahead and start off with some space weather. Taking a look at our solar wind speed right now at 380.4 kilometers per second with a density of 7.7. Our sun is blank. This will be the third day in a row of blank sun, giving us 145 days without spots here in 2018. Right now, our KPNSE actually went up just to 1 just a minute ago, as we were sitting at 0 right before we went on the show. It's been updated, is now a 1. And here is a still shot of our SDO. We are expecting increased solar wind speeds from the coronal hole on the SDO here that is now turning away from Earth. We will see the effects of this somewhere around, it looks like September 17th is when we will see the effects of this solar wind. Taking a look at our TSI reading for September 8th, 2018, came in at a 1360.689. So not a whole lot of change or anything at all during the last several weeks since August 26th, when we had that slight drop, and it is kind of maintained in the 1360.6 range and just a little bit above 7. So that being said, I got a couple articles I wanted to go over first. Got a couple things to talk about tonight. First, flash floods in Turkey. And just when we thought, we were just dealing with Florence, there's a lot of other areas that are flooding. Also with the typhoon that we'll get to here in a second. But major flash flooding hit Turkey's Balıkesir province on September 13th, 2018, damaging roads, homes, and shops. There were no injuries or fatalities reported. But it looks like the city of Bandırma registered around 5.7 inches of rain on September 13th, with most of it falling in 90 minutes. Major flash floods that followed damaged roads, homes, and shops, including the Ederik and Bandırma Road, which has been closed. Turkish State Meteorological Service reported that wide areas of the Marmara region, including Istanbul, experienced thunderstorms that began during the afternoon of the same day. Sarıköy Terkdig recorded around 4.15 inches of rain in 24 hours on September 14th. Flood list reports. By the way, that's a very good website for reports on extreme weather, showing images of the hailstorm that also was endured in this area. So Turkey having just a little bit of everything, some hail, some wind, some heavy downpours, almost 6 inches of rain in 90 minutes. That's what we call a rain bomb. I'll leave the link in the description. And there's actually 2 headlines tonight with volcanoes. The one was the volcano in Japan, and there's some dates that are conflicting. So I didn't want to really give too much of a report, but there is a activity going on in a volcano in Japan as well that hasn't erupted in quite some time. And now we have huge amounts of volcanic gas are emanating from the Katla Volcano, since at least October of 2016, leading researchers to believe this huge volcano under this glacier here in Iceland is charging up for a new eruption. The last known eruption of this volcano took place in 1918, and that was a VEI-4. It has historically erupted once every 40 to 80 years, making it statistically long overdue for a new eruption. It says right here they're seeing about 20 kilotons of carbon dioxide every day, which is an astonishing amount. It is highly unlikely that these emissions could be produced by geothermal activity. There must also be magma buildup to release this quantity of gas. It says here we've measured there 2 years in a row. We measured in October of 16 and 17, but we'd like to do further research. We need to know whether the gases are constant in such a large proportion or if it has increased. It says we know that in other volcanic areas of the world, for example, in Hawaii and Alaska, the gases increase weeks or even years before an eruption. It's clear that we need to continue to monitor Katla. So just a...
Who's doing the dishes?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. Apparently, we are multi-talented here. Henrik was just asking who's doing the dishes. So maybe she can't hear us. All right, that's funny.
I can. Listen, guys, I can't stop yawning. I got my Keurig going here. Just bear with me, Jake.
You're making way too much noise in there.
Hey, I could be louder if you like. No, just joking. Just joking. I'm like the the show. Okay, bye-bye.
So now we know why the aliens let her go.
Right. She's too damn loud in the kitchen.
Yes.
Quality reporting, folks, here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. And let's talk a little bit about Typhoon Nangka as it hits China. The world's strongest storm this year, Typhoon Nangka, continued its path of destruction across Southeast Asia over the weekend, reaching mainland China on Sunday afternoon after pummeling Hong Kong and killing dozens in the Philippines. The storm has carved a deadly trail across the region, killing 2 people in southern China, at least 54 people in the Philippines. So what we feared in that region for the Philippines, at least, definitely, unfortunately, those fears came true. Over 54 people have been killed in the Philippines due to the storm as it regenerated and headed towards China. More than 2.45 million people have been evacuated in China's Guangdong province as Nangka made landfall 5 p.m. local time, according to the Chinese state media. Winds of 107 miles per hour, gusts up to 138 miles per hour are reported. Those are stronger than Hurricane Florence that hit North Carolina over the weekend. There were no reported deaths in Hong Kong, a city well prepared for tropical cyclones. Airports in Shenzhen, a technology hub across the border from Hong Kong, and on a resort island of Hainan also canceled all flights, according to Chinese state media. Nangka is now expected to move inland western Guangdong, while the storm has weakened to a T8, still in place until Sunday evening, meaning that winds with speeds of about 65 kilometers per hour were expected. And here's a little bit of images of the storm. You guys check this out. The link will be in the description. Philippines toll set to rise. The Philippine remains hit the worst, with more than 250,000 people affected by the storm across the country. Around half of those seeking shelter in evacuation centers in the country's north. When Nangka made landfall in the Philippines Saturday morning at 1:40 a.m. local time, the storm was already packing winds of 165 miles an hour. While the death toll is currently at 54, with 32 people injured and 42 more missing, this is likely to rise in the coming days as rescue teams work to locate 36 people to believe buried beneath landslides in the Cordillera Administrative region here in an island here north of Luzon Island. So very tragic situation here in the Philippines. We hope for the best here as you see the path of destruction from this storm. So very destructive tropical storms, one packing some serious wind and rains. But really, when it comes to rain, we've seen some serious rainfall from Florence. And it's not so much about the rain now with Florence. We are looking at river flooding that is set to happen here next week. But let's take a look at some of the rainfall totals so far from Florence. At 33.90 inches of rain is reported, the most in North Carolina. I think that's Swansboro, North Carolina. My birth city, Goldsboro, received around 13.23 inches of rain. So that's up 3 inches just from yesterday. And as you can see, various reports of 30 inches plus, various reports of 20 inches of rain and up. And for the most part, everyone got for sure 4 to 5 inches of rain for the most part in the state of North Carolina. Now, the totals in South Carolina, not so high. The storm has generally been hovering over North Carolina. So we're seeing still over a foot of rain in areas of South Carolina. So nothing to scoff at by any means. But the biggest concern for me right now, and a lot of folks, has got to be the river flooding that's getting ready to happen. And they're comparing this to Matthew. Here's some rivers here, the Tar River in Tarboro. Right now, the forecast for Florence, it's only going to get to 15.5. Matthew's crest was 36.29. But if you go a little further here into Cape Fear, this is where the biggest concerns are right now. Look at that. 62.4 feet is where this river down here, Cape Fear, Fayette. So that's a difference of around over, 3 feet higher than what we saw in Matthew's crest. 62.4 feet, folks. And this is going to happen, somewhere around early week coming up to midweek and hang around for a while. So once we get rid of Tropical Storm Florence, once was a hurricane, we have several river floods to worry about in the state of North Carolina as of right now and beyond.
Yeah, and we talked about that in the last show. You know, I remember I asked you if there was a possibility for a rain bomb.
Yeah, we saw it for sure when you're talking about 30 inches of rain just since Friday. So that's 48 hours we've seen 30 inches of rain. Now, granted, some of these rain bands were making landfall late Thursday night into early Friday morning, but we're looking at about 30 inches, 33 inches of rain within a 48 to 56 hour time range here. So that's quite a bit of precipitation. Not quite the level of Harvey, but Harvey stuck around for a few days. Florence, thankfully, will be making its way further west into the night, and by Tuesday, it should be making one of its last stops as it heads off to the Atlantic. But taking a look at NOAA right now, and it's kind of quiet. We are watching Hurricane Helene, as we are expecting that to hit Ireland and the western UK as well. But that one's going to be what's called a post-tropical cyclone or remnants. So you're going to see some heavy rain and some gusty winds. Nothing like Florence or anything like that. Isaac is dead, but it still has a 40% chance of formation. And I know that it was once a hurricane and is dead now. But the only thing I watch for now is the redevelopment possibility into the Gulf once it hits those really warm waters again. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that for the time being as well. And let me take a look at what else I had here as a current radar of our storm. Look at is, the middle part of North Carolina now, Raleigh, Goldsboro, those areas. The rain's going to be tapering off soon. We got one less heavy band in the Wilmington area now. That should be all the rain they will receive after tonight. Hopefully they can start to dry out, but this storm is moving at a very, very, very slow pace. Last I checked was right around 3 miles an hour. It went up to 5 miles per hour. So not much movement, not much momentum as far as this particular storm is. And taking a look out in the Atlantic, guys, I kind of said this last week and actually a week and a half ago, where the one thing that was for certain that once Florence goes through, it's going to clear the chamber, so to speak. And right now, Florence is on its way, making its way to the northeast as it will rocket out to the Atlantic Ocean. Any storm with it, below it, looks like it's going to get dragged up towards the Ireland and Western UK region within the next 7 to 12 days. And they might even get remnants. In fact, I'll show you guys a quick little view on GFS Tropical Tidbits, what kind of moisture we can expect in that region as well. But the main topic tonight, and this is kind of where you and Mari are going to be most appreciative on the commentating for sure tonight, is this story right here. Study blows greenhouse theory out of the water. Now, this is not new. This is a rehashed story that I just discovered today, thanks to a subscriber of ours and someone we know through Facebook, Penelope. She shared this article early today, and I'm thankful I got to read this because it gives me a better understanding of what does cause temperature rise. And we talk about it. We talk about how it's not CO2, and you always hear us say that. And I know there's probably people who are new to this topic, and they got to ask themselves, well, okay, you're saying it's not CO2. It's not CO2. That's fine. So what is it? And this paper really, or this study anyway, this write-up here really makes a lot of sense. And I'm not going to read everything word for word, but I'm going to read parts of this because I think it's important that someone finally shares a theory on why and what is causing the warming. But it says here, this new scientific paper contends the entire foundation of the man-made global warming theory, the assumption that greenhouse gases warm the atmosphere by trapping heat, is wrong. If confirmed, this study's findings would crush the entire climate change movement to restrict CO2 emissions. It goes on reading here. The paper was published recently in the journal Environment, Pollution, and Climate Change, was written by Ned Nikolov, and PhD in physical science, and Carl Zeller, a retired PhD research meteorologist. Now, the prevailing theory on the Earth's temperature is that heat from the sun enters the atmosphere, and then greenhouse gases such as CO2, methane, and water vapor trap part of that energy by preventing it from escaping it back into space. Okay? That theory, which underpins the anthropogenic global warming hypothesis and the climate models used by the United Nations, was first proposed and developed in the 19th century. However, the experiments on which it's based involved glass boxes that retain heat and preventing the mixing of air inside the box with air outside the box. The truth about global warming is no further than the WND super. Okay, that's just a little advertiser there in the middle of the article, but the experiment is not analogous to what occurs in the real atmosphere, which does not have walls or a lid, according to Nikolov and Zeller. Now, this goes on to read. Let's see, I want to get to some parts here. They list off some things here. To understand the phenomena, the authors use 3 planets, Venus, Earth, and Mars, as well as 3 natural satellites, Moon of the Earth, Titan of Saturn, and Triton of Neptune. They chose celestial bodies based on 3 criteria: having a solid surface, representation of broad range of environments, and the existence of reliable data on temperature, atmospheric composition, and the air pressure. This is important. It says, our analysis revealed a poor relationship between global mean annual temperature and the amount of greenhouse gases in planetary atmosphere across a broad range of environments in the solar system. This is a surprising result from a standpoint to the current greenhouse theory, which assumes that atmosphere warms the surface of a planet or moon via trapping of radiant heat by certain gases controlling atmospheric infrared optical depth. The study continues. Okay, here we go. So, and the effect completely independent of the so-called greenhouse gases and chemical composition of the atmosphere. Hence, there is no greenhouse gases in reality, as in gases that cause warming. Nikolov said when asked to explain in the paper in layman's terms, he says, humans cannot, in principle, affect global climate through emissions of CO2, methane, and other similar gases via changes in land use. He added, all observed climate change have natural causes that are completely outside of human control. Now, for the first time, Nikolov said there is now empirical evidence from NASA data that the greenhouse effect of the atmosphere is not caused by the trapping of heat, but by the force of atmospheric pressure. The pressure is the weight of the atmosphere, he had. A combination of gravity and the mass of atmosphere explains why Earth, for example, is warmer than the moon. The moon receives about the same amount of heat from the sun as Earth, yet it is 90 degrees Celsius colder than the Earth because it has no atmosphere. Now, what does it all mean for science and climate debate? And this is not the first paper to reject that. It goes on to talk about how there have been other papers that have tried to prove this, but they didn't have the mechanism until now. And the mechanism now is atmospheric pressure. If correct, the implications of the discovery would be enormous, multiple scientists told WND. For one, it means the climate projections used to forecast warming doom and justify a wide range of policies are just completely wrong. That is because they were produced by computer models built around physically deep, flawed concept that radiative greenhouse theory, said Nikolov, who works as a federal scientist, but did the new study completely on his own time. Says one major implication of our recently published study is that there is indeed fundamental problems with the physics of the current radiative greenhouse concept. There was one other thing here that I really wanted to point out, but really the biggest aha moment for me in this article is the atmospheric pressure part. And that makes sense to me. That the atmospheric pressure is what causes the warming, the greenhouse effect, basically. So in other words, this study here is denying CO2 as warming and trapping in greenhouse gases that prevent them going into space, because CO2 traps them and holds them down. When in fact, we are looking at the case of atmospheric pressure. And I don't know why this throws to my head, but as I'm sitting here talking to you guys about this, I'm thinking about the warming anomaly that we had in the Arctic over the winter, the sudden atmospheric warming that we had. And if I'm correct, which I'm sure I will be if I go back and look, but that had to do with a lot of atmospheric pressure and the changes in that as well. So I think mainstream media this year, when they were talking about the Arctic and the atmospheric warming, didn't realize that they were just confirming that Earth has a natural greenhouse effect, and it has everything to do with the atmosphere, which I know this is plain and common sense, but when they compared the Earth and moon together with receiving the same sunlight, and the reason that it's colder on the moon obviously is because there's no atmosphere. The atmosphere is what traps heat. It has nothing to do with CO2. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Henrik? I mean, after hearing this, and I'll leave the link in the description so everybody can kind of take a look at this, but I mean, is this about sum it up for you as far as the theory of CO2 traps heat?
No, I think it makes sense. Of course, I would like to read the paper for myself, but I absolutely think it makes sense. But I also have to say that I still think it's a lot of different things that is causing the climate change. It's not only one thing, but I think this one here is, when I'm thinking about it, making very much sense. Of course, why should that not be the case?
Mario,
It makes more sense than CO2.
yes. Mario, I wanted to get your, you haven't said much today except for making all that noise in the kitchen.
I know. You know, I'm breaking up. I think our bandwidth having 2 live streams from the same is causing some issues. So hopefully I'm not buffering too much. Reading this is fascinating. The fear of global warming is completely exaggerated. And, you know, as time goes on, scientists from around the world are admitting that. And there's just too many factors for scientists to look at one series of data and say, that's it. This is what's causing it. When there's just so much to the picture. There's like tidal forcing and everything. Yeah, I mean, I keep on hearing myself in the headphones. It's just like screwing my talking up. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
So I have not seen a group of scientists knock heads together from all directives. You have your climatologists, you have your solar physicists, astrophysicists, or whatever. We actually, to figure out what's going on entirely, need a whole panel of different specialists to sort of knock heads. And I haven't seen that yet. It would be a wonderful thing if someone could actually coordinate that and really have some real climate discussions.
Well, this definitely opens up my mind to want to pay attention to other factors as well. And it's always been about CO2 and, you know, this atmospheric pressure. This makes me want to study more into pressures and kind of keep an eye on stuff like that too as well. But I just thought this was, I don't know why it's been so hard for me to link something that explains warming to everybody at the same time as well, telling you that it's natural. And this paper, I think, this study anyway, if you take the time to sit down and read this, I think this is the paper that will change your mind about CO2 and what is being claimed it's doing to our planet right now, which is it's not warming, it's not trapping anything. Without atmosphere, of course, there wouldn't be any temperature, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. But, you know, and also I saw another meme of an exaggerated person who was freaking out about the Earth's atmosphere is burning up. And it showed actually how much in percentage. And just to give you guys a perspective of how much of Earth's atmosphere is burning up, it's about 0.0001200%. So that's not a lot of atmosphere being burned up at this point. When you have a percentage of it still below 0, that's pretty much next to nothing. So it's all about knowing the facts, understanding the facts, and the truth about CO2 and the greenhouse effect, which this is data that they could use, that they're using from NASA. And I like how they are also comparing other celestial bodies in the solar system. And, you know, this is not the first time that I've heard of people using planetary alignments and other things to do with the solar system to help figure out what's going on with our climate, temperatures, what's going on with the sun. But again, this is such a complex topic. Add another piece right here. Yeah, go ahead, Henrik.
You know, Jake, the big problem is that no matter what paper you can come up with, they will always yell back at you, yeah, but the ice is still melting.
And the polar bears are dying.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Actually, you know that the West Antarctica ice sheet is up to 10,000 feet thick in some places, and a study back from August 17 last year from Indiana University did say that East Antarctica ice sheet will remain stable even if West Antarctica ice sheet would melt.
Yeah, that's just it. We're still going to hear the ice is melting. I saw another channel in the community who was kind of calling out another YouTube channel, and this person was pretty much jumping on because they don't know how to read the data. And what he was showing everybody was the opposite of what he was talking about, which, you know, this person was talking about you know, a certain part of the earth that is melting right now, when in fact the graph that he was showing was actually showing the opposite, that it's gaining ice. And that's the frustrating part, is that some people out there don't know the difference. They don't know how to read these climate charts. They don't know how to read sea ice extent and everything like that. They get out there and misinterpret the data to the masses. And unfortunately, the masses are just going along with the flow with whatever mainstream is saying, because, well, it's got to be true because so many people agree with it. And that's what really frustrates me the most about working in this topic, is that we can come up with articles and papers like this that really slow things down for everybody to get them to think and actually see the light and why CO2 doesn't trap heat. And it has everything to do with atmospheric pressure. Absolutely. I'm glad I found this article. Again, it'll be in the description. Penelope, great job. Once again, she throws a lot of articles out there, even when she's not in the Facebook group, just from Facebook itself. And there's a lot of people out there that can post some really great articles, some great resources, and then go back to their normal posts on their regular Facebook page and have fun and humor. That's fine. That's good. But I see a lot of very important papers like this being posted on her personal page. And it's just great to know people like her who are passionate about the topic and constantly trying to find ways to help convince people of what's happening and show them the truth, and not just stand up and down and yell and scream and calling people names. And it's easy to get caught up in that in this topic. I've noticed whenever we talk about climate change, and Henrik, you kind of mentioned this in your video, but you know, if people don't share the same views on climate change, well, now it turns into a name calling event.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I know. And Mari, you can speak on the experience of being a part of something but not agreeing with it, and then the attitudes and the treatment is totally reversed once you show that you actually disagree with any kind of theory that maybe one group had in particular.
I'm well versed on that. People like to hang on to answers, and when you come across other possibilities, they're so latched on to their one answer, they lose sight of all the other aspects to the topic or situation. And that happens with anything scientific. I mean, just because someone considers it scientific fact, you look back in the history of science, scientific facts have changed. So they're not necessarily facts. Nothing's locked in stone. There's so many dots to connect. I have yet to see one person connect all the dots. So the key is to keep an open mind and not latch on to anything specific. I mean, you saw what I went through trying to debunk the grand solar minimum. It took me how many months? And I was not able to. And it was more fascinating the more I dug into it. There's so much, whether it's the ice cores, tree rings, what's going on with the glaciers, all the different cycles. It's fascinating, and you really have to just say this is what exactly is going on, because something else could throw a curveball in that. All we can do is observe, know facts, try to connect the dots the best we can, and a lot of it is watching it unfold in real time. I'm excited to see what kind of data comes back with the Parker space probe or some solar probe and all that. So it's crazy to me to witness the people acting like know-it-alls, saying things definitively with such conviction. And I don't know. I think sometimes it just makes the mockery of the topic entirely.
Well, I can tell you this. The only thing that's for certain right now is that climate change is natural. I mean, that's the only certainty that we have really with this community, is that warming is natural and cooling is natural. And what we've learned in our time of doing this channel, and Mari did try to debunk the grand solar minimum in the very beginning of this channel's life, because this was something that me and another individual really wanted to push forward. We were doing just like a weekly show on our sister channel, WTF Sky, and it started to become a weekly thing. So, you know, we decided to start the channel, but in the beginning, when we did start this channel, I had Mari in the background trying to debunk everything that me and the other individual were talking about, and she couldn't. And that was the main reason why I think Mari has a really good understanding of what's happening with the grand solar minimum and global cooling, because she did do the research. She did a lot of research because she was trying to disprove this whole thing herself. Look, she didn't want to be a part of this if there was a hole in it, if there was a flaw in this theory that could be like, well, I don't know, maybe. She didn't really want to participate anything into something like that. But as you see now, Mari is a very important part of the channel. She produces the shows. She produces content with videos. You know, she is the big reason why we have what we have going on with this channel, with the websites, with the YouTube presence, with Twitter, with all social media. And the only reason and the only way she could have jumped on board all the way with this was that she thoroughly understood what was happening right in front of us. And that's where, as long as I've known Mari, to be able to not just convince her, but help her see that this was a real situation. If Mari's on board, then that's where I felt like this was definitely heading in the right direction, because everything that we've ever, well, I mean, everything that's ever been skeptic, I've always had you there to help show me why it's a skeptic.
I think Henrik's doing something. Do you hear like a chipmunk or something?
What?
Or is that just something? What the hell is that noise? Does anyone in the chat hear that? Is it a monkey?
Monkey?
Get us.
Jake, is he calling me a monkey?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
I am the ultimate skeptic. And after reading paper after paper, some people don't take the time to read these scientific papers either. They just take other people's word at it, like you said, Jake. And that is, please don't take other people's word at the information. Try, if you really want to understand the data, try to read some of these papers and let them absorb. Take your time. And once you start reading paper after paper after paper, you're going to start seeing not one aspect, but multiple different angles of why we are cooling. And I have yet to find anything that debunks all of them, because they do correlate with each other quite well.
Yeah, and if I can say something, somebody is sometimes very easy to debunk, and then there's those people that are not so easy to debunk, of course. And I have now been trying to debunk myself for 4 years, and it's very difficult.
Well, I'm just glad that we have people that are willing to look at both sides of the evidence in the first place. When you talk about debunking, you have to look at both sides. And that seems like that a lot of people in the anthropogenic global warming side of things, that's where they stop. They don't go as far as we do. We'll take a look at your claim of CO2. But here's the funny part. Every time we ask for the evidence or we want to take a look at what you got, we don't get to see it.
You just get attacked with ad hominem. I haven't been in these groups in a while with, you go on Facebook and you go into the climate change groups, and you post an article about something you find interesting, and instead of intellectual debate, you just get just total ad hominem attacks and character assassination. It's insane.
And then,
Jake.
understandable. And, you know, I wanted to go along with not just ad hominem attacks, but I believe also that information suppression is happening all over social media. The other night, we had around 330 people watching our live feed. And usually when we have somewhere around 150 to 200 people watching in a show, a 24-hour view cat usually ends up around 6,000. And I've noticed here a couple different times where we've had very high live view counts. And then 2 hours after the show, you look at the analytics and it goes from 1,300 views in 2 hours to a complete flat line over the next several 10 to 15 hours and very little action. And I find it interesting because in the very beginning of this channel, I remember after the John Casey interview, YouTube was actually recommending our channel a couple different times on their main front page. If you just go to YouTube without signing in, our video is actually showing up in that main feed. But I've noticed here lately, and it's like the analytics, the algorithm has changed here at YouTube. I just find it awkward and odd that we get all these immediate views in 1 or 2 hours and then nothing after that. And I have a feeling it's viewer suppression. They don't want this getting out. This doesn't get put in a spot where it's going to be picked up on everybody's search or everybody's suggested. And that's fine. If it's this channel, whatever. But the information itself is still solid. The stuff that we report on when we go live is information that's vetted out and looked at before we just jump out. And if we do make a mistake, I'm pretty quick to jump on another show and correct myself. Or if I did a poor job of explaining what really happened and what's going on, I'll jump back on and explain better. So I think, well, Henrik.
Yo.
I got to ask, your videos lately, is it really hot? Are you in the sun a lot? UVC?
Excuse me, I was what?
I was talking about your last video that you put out. The hitchhiking story.
Yeah.
Kind of give some background on what was, because you explained to me before the show, and I think it's important because there's so much seriousness going on this topic, but it's nice to see someone having fun.
Yeah, but as fun as it may sound or look like, it's actually a therapy for me because, I'm one of those people in the world that are not afraid of being honest and say that I get depressed. I get very depressed sometimes, but not like a suicidal thing, but I get very depressed. And that is because every time, you and I and a lot of people who are in this community, we're not only reading the newspapers, we are reading so many things, and there are so many things we have to check all the sources and read what they have been writing at other sources we also have. And everything today is like, every journalist in the world, when they are making a headline, it's like it has to be the last headline in the world because everything is a catastrophe. Everything is going to be doomsday scenario, and I really don't know why it have to be that, because calm down. And now we had the other day the weather guy. What the fuck is going on with the weather guy? It's so I think it's so crazy. People will think, well, we cannot trust anything. And I just think it's so stupid. Just like with the solar observatorium in Soho in New Mexico. I was seeing a video after we were being kidnapped. Because I had time, and a guy had made a video where you could see in the window that there was lying this X-File video or DVD on the table, who was supposed to be inside the solar observatorium. Fuck that, I don't believe that. But anyhow, who doesn't have an X-File copy at home? I have, and I think it was about 30 minutes after that the news broke that the tower was been hijacked of FBI and what have we. People was just, oh my God, it's John Wayne on a horse. Oh fuck, it's the wrong paper. Sorry.
Damn no.
So I had to make this video because I thought, well, I was, my body was, almost attacking myself, in such a furious rage, over all those headlines, everything is bad, everything. And I know it's bad with the storms and the hurricanes and the earthquakes and what do we have. But we also got to remember to take time to relax and have just a little fun now and then and don't get overexcited about everything.
We caught the Weather Channel. It appears the internet has caught the Weather Channel kind of flubbing their reporting. I always think when they're doing these hurricane reports that we're looking at green screen and maybe someone's spraying a sprinkler on them with a fan in the background to make it look like they're out in it. Because I think, to me, look, it's dangerous to report in the middle of a hurricane. Everybody knows that. 90-mile-an-hour gust. No one needs to be outside in it. And I get it. You're trying to get ratings. But there was a video, I'm sure you saw this, Henrik, on Facebook, where the guy's trying to act like the wind is tossing him around. And then in the background, we have two individuals walking as if nothing's happening.
Yeah, and one of the guys was text messaging at the same time. You cannot do that in a hurricane.
No, yeah, Mark, you have that queued up.
And then we had the other day the story about the talking dog from Buffalo. I mean, you're from Buffalo, so I guess you have heard about that story. I have never heard anything like that. It's so crazy.
Like what?
You have not heard the talking dog?
The talking dog?
Yeah, I think it was related to the guy from the Weather Channel.
Oh, no, I didn't.
No, okay, I can tell you. He was walking down a street because he was apparently trying to hiding from the press because he was now recognized that he have done something very stupid, of course.
Right.
So he was walking down the street, and then outside a house, he saw this sign, where there was a sign, a talking dog for sale, $10. And he was thinking, what the fuck, a talking dog? Is this a joke or what? But then again, he thought, well, I'm a journalist. Maybe there's a little story here. So he knocked on the door, of course. And a guy came out. Yeah, what's up? I saw your sign. You have a dog for sale for $10, a talking dog. Yeah, if you want to talk with it, you can go out in the back and talk to it. And the weather guy was like, what the fuck is he all about? So he went out in the garden, of course. And there was standing this cute little black dog. And he went over to the dog, and sat down and looked it into the eyes and said, I know this is so stupid. I'm sitting here and talking to you, and I know you cannot talk. Yes, I can talk. And he was like, what? But you're a dog. How can you talk? Well, I really don't know, It started when I was about 6 months. I found out I could talk. And unfortunately, I could not shut up. So the FBI and the CIA, they caught me, And since then, I have been, I have been everywhere. I have found Bin Laden. I have found Saddam Hussein. I found Jimmy Hoffa and buried him again. And I have been eardropping into a very important meetings, with Putin and Kim Fat Young Bong and everybody. So if you want me, you can buy me because I'm retired dog now. And the guy, he was like, what is this? So he went back to the guy in the kitchen and said, that is amazing. I mean, your dog can talk. Oh my God, all those things. Why do you want to sell that dog for $10? Because it's a big liar. He have never done any of those things he's claiming.
Mario is currently looking for some footage, and I will.
This is the Typhoon.
Oh, yeah.
This is real footage. And I shared this on Facebook. And I was like, why doesn't Weather Channel try this location? Just like.
Well, they wouldn't be able to stand up.
Let me, I don't know. Don't screen share my thingy, and I will try to find out the one. Okay, Jake. Code word for figure it out. I'm trying to find it still.
Well, while Mari's doing that, let me quickly let me show you GFS forecast. It doesn't look like much, guys. Lots of Gulf Coast moisture towards the end of the month. Here in the Midwest and the Northeast, once Florence makes its way out, we're going to have a couple of low pressure systems that will usher in cold fronts both times, and lots of moisture through Ohio, Pennsylvania, Western New York, and actually New York gets a couple of storm systems in the last week of September. And that's been pretty consistent with what we've been watching over the past several days with the GFS. So Southwest, your monsoon season is coming to a close, it looks like, as we are seeing that moisture drifting away. I'll tell you what, also, I wanted to go to Europe real quick and show you guys. Helene will be making its impact. And
I can't find it.
here's right there, approaching Ireland and the western UK. And it's just going to be mainly a rain event in the northern part anyway. But you guys are going to see Ireland and northern UK. You guys are going to see a couple of low pressure systems that are feeding off the Atlantic coast of the United States from these cold fronts that are being pushed off. And I'm seeing rain here towards the beginning of October. Let's go all the way back here. So it looks like Denmark's dry for now, but here in a couple of days, Tuesday into Wednesday, still dry. So late week next week, some chance for showers on Friday in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland as well across Germany. And again, early the following week, you guys will get a heavy dose of some moisture there, Henrik. So get ready for some rain in your region around the 24th of September, actually starting on early Sunday morning. You guys will have a pretty big low pressure system moving right across Denmark. You're going to get rain for at least 2 to possibly 3 days there before it all breaks up and goes back to dry. But interesting end of the month for here in the U.S. and also in the European nations as well. Germany, Poland, Ireland, the UK area, Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. We will all be keeping our eyes on the weather over there as well, as temperatures will begin to start heading pretty much, average for this time of year, fall-like temperatures. I wanted to dive into that really fast as well. I remember when we first started the month of September, there was lots of talk of well above average temps. And I will show you here what we're looking at right now. So we're still seeing 80s popping up, going backwards. Let's go right here. Sunday into Monday. Good portion of the United States will be in the low 80s, including here in parts of New York. But then throughout the day, we start things to cool off a little bit. In the Northeast, we're going to be highs in the 70s. And as each day of the week goes by, those 80s start to diminish a little bit more. The northern part of the United States here, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Oregon, and Washington, and parts of Maine and other parts of the Northeast are going to start seeing some cooler temperatures starting to filter and work its way down as we head into midweek, I'd say around Saturday, Sunday of next weekend for the United States. So fall is arriving right on cue. Especially here in the Northeast, we don't see temperatures get out of the 50s and 60s for the most part heading into September, the end of September. Look at that. Daytime highs in the 40s and 50s. On October 1st, we're looking at daytime highs in the 40s and 50s as well here in the Northeast. So right on cue, things kind of cool off in a hurry. This is the first day of October overnight. These are our daytime highs for October 2nd and the overnight lows into the next day. So all I know is that, once again, mainstream media overhyped it. Mario, I'm going to go ahead and share your little...
Oh, you're going to show? Okay.
Yeah.
I was able to dig it out. There's a bunch of BS ones, but this
here's the video we were talking about. Check this out in the background, folks. Looks pretty windy. He's having a hard time standing Whew, that 75-mile-an-hour winds can be pretty tricky. Oh, wait, what's this? Just having a little stroll. La-di-da. Those guys don't look like they're struggling to walk in that. I don't know about you guys, but that's a little peculiar.
There's another one. Jake, turn that volume down a little bit. There's another one where a guy figured out a spot where there's like a really deep puddle, and he's standing like knee deep in water, and the people behind him are just like walking on the sidewalk about 10 feet behind him with no puddle. So there is some deceptive practice. Not that the Carolinas are in good shape right now, but they are certainly sensationalizing that, which is, it's disturbing. While I have screen sharing, do you have my screen share, Jake, by any chance?
You want me to put you up now?
Yeah. We have some great people in the chat right now. Starman and even Carlos Ramirez, awesome researchers. Take a look at Twitter. It's Twitter let's say it, Carlos. LPDLC Ramirez at Twitter. He has some fascinating research and charts that he has painstakingly put together. Say hi to him in the chat, guys. Just another wonderful member and asset to the GSM community.
Well, guys, I think we've come to a point where I could wrap this up, but Henry,